Hey fishers, how you going? So this here is a little review slash teardown of the Shimano Sahara. This is the 2500 and it's the 2500 FE, so they don't make them anymore at the time of this being made. It's an older reel. It is a nice older reel, and the reason I'm doing this one on the older reel is to show you just the importance of rinsing your reels after use. So if you haven't seen my Shimano Kazna 2500 FA teardown, go have a look at that one. I don't like to bore you guys with the specs because you can find all that stuff on the internet. We'll just hook in straight away. So this one here, I believe back in the day, probably would have cost you about 120 Aussie dollars. Don't know how much it would have been in the States. So it's not by any means a really cheap or really budget reel, particularly compared to the Kazna or the Hyperloop or Siennas and stuff like that. It is supposed to be a higher end reel, which is why I would have thought would be all the more reason to look after it. If you have a look in here, this hasn't been stripped down for maybe a few months, but that's really good in there. As before, take our gearing mech off. That looks pretty good there. We'll just get the lock nut off. Don't lose that one. I always like to pop that one actually into a tray. Usually I keep this sort of just finger tight. And the reason for that is if you have to service reel or you have any dramas while you're out fishing, it is handy to, with a bit of brute force, be able to pop your reel apart. And then all you need is a screwdriver. So you can carry basically one screwdriver around and undo it. So guys, if you haven't seen the Kazna review, this is basically the same clutch mechanism. And as with any clutches, when you reassemble it or if you're servicing your reel, it does need some friction to run. So don't be greasing or don't be loading this guy up with silicone spray or anything like that, or any lube, because it does need that friction to operate properly. All you do is, if you can, just give it a brush down. I think the last time this one was taken apart, sorry, was for a complete strip and do over. I'll try to pop a picture up if I can of just what it looked like when I received it. So this was actually a trade that I got from someone. I thought I was getting a really good deal. Guy did admit to it being dunked once. Reckons he rinsed it straight away. I beg to differ. Clutch looks really good. They're all really good in there. Just watch that collar bearing. So when you're greasing, as you can tell, this one here's pretty well greased. Not too bad, not too much on that. That's really good. It's really, really good. Cool. So we'll pop the handle out. And I will hopefully be able to show you the inside of this guy. Cool. Should just be, I think it's 4 on this one. Might be wrong. It's generally no set order, at least for me. No set order for undoing these. It really needs to be a bigger screwdriver. Okay. Grab that one. So if we've got the time, try to get this one under 10 minutes. If we've got the time, we'll do a quick strip, show the inside. I'll show the reassembly real quick. So one thing I forgot to mention with these guys, I've just noticed now as I'm taking these ones out, is there is a friction ring you can take off. Just be wary of taking it off with your screwdriver or anything sharp. This guy here, if you need to service it, just lever it, pop it out and pop it back on. Pretty straightforward. Got another screw here. I've got a little cowling at the bottom, that should have one. I should warn you, so as I mentioned, it was dunked in water by a previous owner. reckons he rinsed it. I don't believe he did, or I don't believe he only dunked it once. Let's pop the cover off. So in there is quite good. Boom. Look at the state of that. So when I got this, it's running really good now, but all that there, all this dark stuff you can see was really, really bad pitting. So all up here was encrusted with salt. You can buy one of these gear wheels for, I think about $3 US, but for us in Australia, the shipping is going to hit you pretty hard. Your guide rod here, similar to the Kazna review I did, is just be wary of where in the channel the actual lug, one little nipple on this bottom wheel fits. So as I mentioned before, with the Kazna, with the Hyperloop, with all the other wheels I've done, is once you pop it back together, is if it's running rough when you turn the handle, that's your main culprit, is locating that in the channel. So that's basically the inside of that one, guys. It's not in the best condition. I did manage to clean it up pretty well, and it's running smooth now, but when I first got it, you would have swore it was on its last legs. It's a reassembly. I don't think I did one for the Kazna, but I'll do one for this. So if you're going to service this, guys, you just strip it back, get off any salt water, make sure you get everything nice and bright if you can. Just be wary of sanding bits and pieces. I did have to on that main gear that you saw that was heavily pitted. Almost had some surface rust. So long as your contact surfaces on the gears are good, you should be right. And then when you're re-greasing, there's a dozen videos on YouTube of how to surface a reel properly. When you're re-greasing, just be careful of where you're greasing, not putting too much on. So as I mentioned, that clutch assembly, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't want to be popping big stacks of lube on that. It does need friction to run. And ideally, use the right size screwdriver. You can see this, it's a little bit small, but we get it nice and tight without stripping them. Try to get as good a seal on as we can. Put that little cover on. There we go. Should be the same size. Yeah, pop that little cover on. So guys, at any stage of disassembling any Shimano reel, this is the stage where you sort of start checking everything's seated. Get the handle back in. Let's get that back in. Just give that a gentle turn. It's pretty good. Pretty good. It should be basically light as a feather. So we've got that clutch assembly. Just seat that over the top, so that should be flush like that. We got 3 screws. Just check. There's 3 holes here. You just got to check that they actually line up with an actual hole on the assembly. It's 4 holes, but only 3 actual threads under the clutch assembly. I think when these are made, as you saw with probably the Kazna, I don't think the Hyperloop was the same. All the clutch assemblies for the same size reel are basically the same for the Sienna and so on. You just gotta make sure you line them up, otherwise you start boring holes in your reel. Cool. So I was hoping to keep this under 10 minutes. Got a washer. That is a single washer. Generally is supposed to be another collar. There's supposed to be a flat washer that usually sits over that guy. Pop that one on. Pop the nut on first. So that's finger tight, and as I mentioned before, I usually just give it a little bit more. So So if need be, I should be able to wrench on that and undo it with the fingers in case I run into any dramas whilst out fishing. And yeah, nearly done. Get that locking nut to seat. Come on, you bugger. Here we are, get that guy in there. Sorted. 1, 2, third on, 3. Put it back on. Okay, we'll just do a quick check, and that there, guys, is inside of Sahara. Cool. Oh, I'll just wrap my line up. Any questions, let me know.